long time ago, the Earth was a very different place. Hundreds of millions of years before the dinosaurs, the Earth was covered with vast oceans, filled with life. That life took the form of simple single-celled organisms, phytoplankton and algae. Those single-celled organisms converted the sun's energy into chemical energy. They consumed carbon dioxide and produced oxygen. When they died, they fell to the bottom of the ocean floor and were covered by layers of sediment. Heat and pressure converted those ancient single-celled creatures into oil. About 150 years ago, humans drilled into the earth and began extracting that oil. And that's when our world profoundly changed. Oil is the lifeblood of our society. Almost everything in our lives is made from oil. It heats us, it cools us, it feeds us, it brings us what we need to live. It takes us where we need to go. But there are problems with our use of oil. Serious problems.
It could turn out to be the worst environmental disaster in more than 20 years.
Thousands of gallons of crude oil are oozing into the Louisiana coastal waters 10 days now after that oil rig exploded in the Gulf of Mexico.
And this afternoon, rescue crews cleaned their first bird found coated with oil, which is being spilled at a rate of 5,000 barrels every day. It could take up to 3 months to drill a relief well to plug the leak. And at the current rate of leakage, this spill would eclipse the Exxon Valdez disaster in Alaska back in 1989.
And that's why the federal government is now getting involved. NBC's Jay Gray begins our team coverage.
Oil continues to slowly creep into Louisiana's wetlands.
Total catastrophe, a hurricane hitting us a little bit at a time.
Only this is a man-made disaster. Teams continue to ferry crews to the most vulnerable areas, but
the people of the Gulf Coast need our help. And they deserve nothing less than for us to stand up and do whatever is necessary to stop this spill, prevent further damage, and compensate all those who've been harmed already.
And don't forget, this spill is still putting out 200,000 gallons of oil a day. It's a river into the Gulf of Mexico.
A river fueled by 5,000 barrels of oil a day, pouring out of the crippled Deepwater Horizon.
The refineries heat crude oil in distillation towers. Oil vapors condense along the sides, splitting into a variety of products like diesel fuel and gasoline. The leftover toxic chemicals turn the surrounding air and soil into what the EPA calls the fallout area. So how does all your stuff get to you? The shoes on your feet, the shirt on your back, the chair you're sitting in right now. Ever think about it? Check it out. A lot of your stuff actually starts out overseas. Your stuff gets loaded onto a boat powered by a diesel engine. The boat brings it across the ocean. Your stuff gets unloaded at a port and put onto a train powered by a diesel engine. The train brings your stuff to a distribution center where your stuff gets unloaded onto a truck powered by a, you got it, diesel engine. Diesel engines do more than just transport things. They move Earth. They run power plants. They build buildings. The diesel engine is by far the dominant engine of the world, and every one of them can run on biodiesel today without any modifications.
That's what the economy requires, that's what the climate requires, and that's what our national security requires.
The whole process of making gasoline is incredibly inefficient. For every 1 unit of energy that I put into making gasoline, I only get about 80% out. It actually takes more energy to make a gallon of gasoline than a gallon of gasoline contains. So what about biofuels? The two most common biofuels today are ethanol, made from corn, and biodiesel from soybeans. Ethanol is used for gasoline engines, and biodiesel is for diesel engines.
Our first generation biofuel was based on logic. These are agriculture products that we can subsidize. You can make corn-based ethanol. There's a big lobby behind it. And similarly, soy. You can make a good biodiesel from soy, and there's a big lobby behind it.
Most of the ethanol in the U.S. is made from corn. And corn is grown in huge monocrop fields of tens or even hundreds of thousands of acres. To grow that corn takes a tremendous amount of fertilizers and pesticides, which all come from, you guessed it, oil. When you factor in the phosphates, the nitrates, the fertilizers, the chemicals, the fuel used for the trucks, and the fuel used for the tractor, it takes as much energy to make a gallon of ethanol as a gallon of ethanol contains. So ethanol is arguably energy neutral. It's a little better than gasoline, but not when you consider the pollution.
Since the 1980s, in the Gulf of Mexico, there has developed a dead zone, and that dead zone is resulting from nitrogen flowing down the river from all of our corn production. This year, scientists are estimating it'll be the largest ever, about 8,500 square miles. That's the size of Massachusetts.
So then there's biodiesel made from soybeans. For every 1 unit of fossil energy that's put into the biodiesel process, you actually get 3 units out in biodiesel energy. So biodiesel arguably is energy positive. Soybeans have a lot of the same problems as corn. They're grown in huge monocrop farms using a tremendous amount of petroleum fertilizers, pesticides, and other inputs. And in some parts of the world, to grow those soybeans, some governments are allowing something unacceptable to happen.
The last few years, you've seen an expansion of soy production in places like Brazil, and it's led to deforestation. But there's something wrong with the way our current economic system values tropical rainforest, when it's worth more to cut down that forest than it is to have a standing forest that's providing us with carbon sequestration, drinking water, biodiversity, medicinal plants, and habitat for millions of species.
I've suggested that we ban the export of biofuels from any country that doesn't meet reforestation targets.
What about making biofuels sustainably? I mean, after all those engines are going to need some other kind of fuel.
Big, heavy, earth-moving equipment are really not going to be electric powered. They need too much power. So the diesel engine, we believe, is here to stay, and biodiesel is a perfect solution. As far as the sustainability of biodiesel, we're just in round one here. We don't need to use virgin oils from food crops. This year we'll run 15 different feedstocks. We could produce biodiesel with waste fats, waste fish oil. We're also developing virgin oils out of crops like pennycress or camelina that are weeds, essentially. They grow very cheaply in suboptimum soil.
Richard Branson. He owns an airline, a record company. He even owns a spaceship. But what he wants, more than anything, is a sustainable fuel.
We're very pleased today to be making a commitment to invest 100% of all future proceeds into tackling global warming for an estimated value of $3 billion over the next 10 years.
I've always believed that one person can make a difference. And when that one person is a bazillionaire, he can make a really big difference.
In biofuels, there will be bad biofuels which may eat into the food supply, and there will be good biofuels that will not eat into the food supply. And I think what the environmental organizations have to be very careful of is not to bracket all biofuels are bad for you. It just doesn't make sense.
Thank you.
Today's Virgin Atlantic flight is a major milestone in the development of cleaner fuels. We wanted to prove that a plane could fly at 30,000 feet on biofuel. That has happened, and we believe that we can now start developing biofuel for the future that hopefully the whole of Virgin Atlantic can use, and other airlines too.
What we have to aim for is a technological breakthrough. And that technological breakthrough hopefully will enable us to drive our cars, our lorries, our buses, our planes on clean fuels, which are not damaging the environment, on fuels that are not eating into the food supply. You know, that is the utopia we must strive for.
Henry Ford, the visionary father of the modern auto industry, grew up on a farm outside of Detroit. Maybe that's why he designed his Model T to run on ethanol alcohol, a fuel made from corn. White lightning, moonshine. On his 14th birthday, Rudolph announces his purpose in life. He is to become an engineer, the best engineer in the world. He excels in school, winning scholarship after scholarship, in some schools earning the highest scores ever recorded. He learns to speak 3 languages, German, French, and English. In 1880, Rudolph starts an apprenticeship building refrigeration and steam engines. He's appalled at the inefficiency of the steam engine. In 1892, he patents a design for a revolutionary, highly efficient new engine. German patent number 6721, the machine we know as the diesel engine. He becomes a millionaire many times over by the age of 40. He debuts his engine at the Paris exhibition of 1900. The engine runs on peanut oil. More than 50 million people attend. The escalator is introduced and the first publicly exhibited films with sound are shown. But Rudolph's engine wins the Grand Prix, the highest prize. It was his hope that by fueling an engine with an agricultural product, he could take the power away from big industry and put it back into the hands of the everyday farmer and the common man.
RFC is an American company. It's headquartered in Las Vegas, Nevada, with most of its management staff located in Austin, Texas, which is the oil capital of Texas in the United States. RFC's purpose is to bring renewable energy products to the U.S. market.
We have the power to make a difference. Are we going to wait for the oil companies to hand it to us? Are we going to wait for the automakers to say, here, now, go? Forget about it. We now can make a difference today.
We all breathe the same air. If we have it in our power to do something to make that air cleaner, don't you think it's our fiduciary responsibility to do so? Families matter. you have the ability to do something to protect that family, and I believe you ought to do that without question, looking at alternative fuels.
In my lifetime, I've been able to see the blue planet in a way that my grandparents couldn't have imagined it. I've seen a photograph of it from thousands of miles in space. And it really is blue, isn't it? And it's gorgeous.
We are an accumulation of life forms. What you look at when you see another person is the history of this world, from the beginning of life to the present. As soon as we learn that lesson and that we sense our connectivity, then you can't help but want that connectivity to increase.
The most important thing in life is for people to at least have the choice. That's freedom. And I wanted to be able to offer that to my children.
The earth is not a thing. It's not a rock. It's a living being. And we are part of that. If we begin to learn to live by the principles set forth in nature, we have infinite abundance of energy, infinite abundance of resources. We can sustain every living human being, as well as the human beings that will come. The choice is ours, every single one of ours. The rest of the journey is up to you.